The August 21st meeting of the Carter County Commission is now in session. I respectfully request that everyone in the courtroom turn off their cell phones at this time. Also, commissioners, do not use your phone for texting during the meeting. It's very distracting. Please remain focused on the issues at hand. Commissioners, if you wish to speak at any given time during this meeting, please stand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Only one person will be recognized at any given time to speak. All discussion must pertain to the motion that is under consideration. Going off on irrelevant topics is not in order. Third debate of the issues is always encouraged. However, personal attacks will not be tolerated. A professional decorum must be maintained throughout the proceedings. During commissioners' comments, motions to adjourn will not be recognized or acknowledged until the chair is satisfied that all commissioners that wish to speak have done so. Mr. Gary Smith, would you please come forth and provide the egress plan, emergency egress plan?
Good evening. Good evening. Glad to see everyone survive the eclipse today. For those of you who may not have attended a county commission meeting in the past, should an event arise at the water system evacuation facility, our primary evacuation route is the south entrance, which is the monument side of the building. We'll go down the stairway and form up in the parking lot to the east side of the building. The secondary evacuation route is the stairwell across from the elevator on the north end of the building, and again, the assembly area is the parking lot behind the building. That leaves room for the emergency vehicles so that they can make entry if necessary. We also have an AED downstairs that should the event arise. It's there if needed. Hopefully it won't be that bad tonight. And last but not least, the restrooms are located on the north end of the building on both the first and second floors, and they are handicap accessible. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Madam Clerk, would you proceed with roll call, please? Everyone present. That's great. Approval of the agenda. There's one item that we need to amend, and that is item B, resolution 14B, that is, City of Elizabeth and Carter County requesting land transfer from TDOT for multiple sports park. That item has been removed at the request of Chairman Ken Googe. So we will not address that item tonight. There's some matters there. So with that amendment, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? Have a motion made by Mr. Holdren, second by Mr. Lewis. At least that's the order I heard. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, proceed with the vote. Motion passes, unanimous. If you would please, everyone stand for our opening prayer, which will be led by Commissioner Willie Campbell. Please remain standing for the pledge thereafter, which will be led by Commissioner Robert A. Cup.
Our dear Heavenly Gracious, Father God, Lord, to bow our heads, Lord, this day. Thank you for another day, Lord, for giving us another breath that we can take. Lord, knowing that you're in control, God, of everything that's said and done. Lord, we know, Lord, tonight, Lord, just want to thank you, God, for everything that you do for us, Lord, every prayer that you've answered. Thank you for your love, mercy, and grace that you have upon each one of us. And God, tonight we know, Lord, when trouble's all around us, we can always look unto you, Lord. Lord, we can look unto the hills where cometh our help and our strength and know that it only comes from you. Lord, tonight we want to thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who come and died for each and every one of us, Lord, that we can have eternal life one day to be with you. Lord, we do pray for each family that's represented here today, God. Lord, we pray, Lord, there may be sickness, there may be financial or marriage or whatever it may be, God. We just pray, Lord, that you touch their hearts. Lord, that you take control of it. And God, we pray you have your will and way in this meeting. We ask these things in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would ask that all of the elected and appointed officials please stand to be recognized. Thank you.
The position of constable is historically the oldest law enforcement position in the United States. A Tennessee constable is an elected position with full power of arrest and is a state officer. While their powers as peace officers are valid statewide, their activities are generally conducted in the county where they're elected. Constables operate as individual officers at no cost to the citizen or government. They provide their own uniforms, vehicles, fuel, equipment, and stand ready to aid or assist all citizens and or agencies within the county as the need arises. Their mission is to provide additional law enforcement presence in the county and to assist and supplement the county sheriff's office and police departments. Today, we pay tribute to and honor and remember one who proudly served as a law enforcement professional here in Carter County for a period that spans 5 decades. Actually, he was the longest serving constable in the state of Tennessee. He was known to many as a good man, dedicated public servant, truly a pillar of our community. Personally, I don't know of any individual that has given as much to our county. I don't know of anyone throughout their entire life that has done more to put the overall welfare of his neighbors, friends, and families above all else. Truly an example that each of us should strive to emulate. Please give me some assistance in providing a heartfelt welcome to the family of Mr. Landon Pritchard. Ms. Pritchard, I'd like to present you with this plaque for myself and Carter County Commission honoring Landon for his dedicated service to Carter County, 5 decades of exemplary public service.
Well, I thank you so much, and this is a great honor, and Landon be so proud because he loved all of his people. I've seen him get up and meet him at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning because he's far, or he kept the scanner on all night. If it's a far wreck, he said, I gotta go. It's up Stony Creek, And I appreciate his family coming, his two daughters, their family, my daughter, her family. God bless each one, and I appreciate it.
If a family could stand again just to be recognized, they stood what everybody else did earlier. And Mr. Hill also has a proclamation that he would like to read and present. So we appreciate you.
Thank
You
you
know-
so much. God bless you, Landon. Love you all.
And it took a lot of support from the home, mainly you, to allow this to happen.
This would have been his 50th year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it is a tremendous honor for me to be before this body and be with you again. What I have here is a proclamation, and it reads very quickly as this. Whereas the members of the House of Representatives are greatly saddened to learn of the passing of Constable Landon Pritchard. And whereas Constable Pritchard was an exemplary public servant and consummate professional who worked assiduously to improve the quality of life for his fellow citizens in Carter County. And whereas a man of integrity and honor, Constable Landon Pritchard held the distinction of being the longest serving constable in the state of Tennessee, and in which position you earned the respect and admiration of the good citizens of Carter County. Whereas he was also deeply devoted to his family, and he always endeavored to remain true to family values of the highest order. Whereas Constable Pritchard leaves behind an indelible legacy of integrity and probity in public life, compassion and loyalty in private life, and diligence and dedication in all his chosen endeavors. And it goes on with a little bit more beyond that, but this is from the House of Representatives, all the House members and the legislature as a whole. In his honor.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
He was appreciated, and I do know Senator Rusty Crowe in 2011 issued a similar proclamation. He wasn't here at that time. Senator Crowe presented, and I had the honor of presenting to Mr. Pritchard then. So, it's warranted. It really is. Now on to another story. In 1960, at the age of 14, this skilled and extremely talented athlete began playing fast-pitch softball right here in our home of Carter County. In 1966, he joined the United States Navy and proudly served 4 years as a corpsman/paramedic for the Marines. That was in itself, major accomplishment. In 1968, while stationed in Okinawa, he received his first true championship by winning the Service Nationals. Among his many accomplishments are 2 state championships, MVP, 1 regional title as well as a 4th and 5th place finish in the ASA Nationals. His professional sports career spans from 1960 to 93. Records achieved are as follows: 970 wins, 302 losses, 41 no-hitters, and 3 perfect games. He has been inducted into 4 Halls of Fame: the Tennessee ASA, South Carolina Fast Pitch, Honorary South Carolina ASA, and the Carter County Sports Hall of Fame. Over the past 30 years, he has donated thousands of hours, sharing his exceptional talent with the youth of Carter County. Countless young ladies have received first-class professional coaching and training at absolutely no cost. His program of instruction is based primarily on 3 principles. 1, focus and concentration. 2, pitching is 90% from the neck up. And 3, when you walk across the line onto the field, you must always conduct yourself as a professional.
When you walk back across the line and off the field, you are to conduct yourself as a young lady. Important. A good number of his students have become coaches, assistant coaches, doctors, lawyers, and business professionals. Among these are Katie Robinson, Ryan Music, Megan Heaton, Lacey Huskins, Sarah Harden, Corey Schutler, Dana Holzclaw, and Trinity Bowers. And that's just to name a few. We just don't have time to not go through all of that, but there may be some here that we can recognize shortly. This 30-plus year commitment to the youth of our county would not have been possible without a tremendous level of support and understanding from his lovely wife, Karen. It's an honor and privilege to welcome Mr. Richard Jarfly Dudley. Carter County Mayor Leon Humphrey and Carter County Commission honors Richard Jarfly Dudley, accomplished athlete, 30 years community service dedicated to the youth of Carter County. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I really appreciate this honor. It's a little overwhelming. I do a little of the work, but these girls do most of it. But they couldn't do it without these good parents. These parents go the limit. And if you want to know how much they go, all you have to do is ask Buford, ask Chris Schubler, Terry Pierce, these guys sitting right back here. It takes a whole lot to get them to where they're at. And I'm just so glad that I'm part of it. I'd like to thank my family for being here. My wife Karen, my granddaughter, my brother and sister-in-law, Dustin, my son Lance. Jerry back here, president of Vietnam Veterans 824, thank you for being here. All the other people that showed up for this honor. But right now, I would like to just honor the people that's doing it. There's some of these girls here tonight, and I'd like for them to stand up and give a good round of applause. For some people in the background that needs recognition, they don't get much of it. It's the coaches of these leagues, the coaches of the high schools, and especially the teachers. They are our future. They're pushing our future. We need to invest in these teachers and these coaches. We need to invest in these girls. I know a lot of stuff that's in the years have been thrown out there and just overlooked and lost by all of us. But this is an investment that will pay back 100%. We do. I've had over 150 girls. I don't know but one of them maybe have a little trouble. They're just great. I love them. I love doing it. And I appreciate them doing this for me tonight. Thank you.
We could hang that downstairs, Jarfly, but I don't think that's the proper place.
I'm not running, Leon.
Well, I've heard all kinds of rumors. Believe me, I've heard all kinds of rumors. Only time will tell. We have yet another exceptional individual with us tonight. The question is, what really makes a good law enforcement professional? Just think about that. Some of the obvious qualities and characteristics that come to mind are integrity, honesty, someone that can remain calm under pressure, and has physical strength when needed. But the qualities of top law enforcement professionals go far beyond the obvious to include interpersonal communications skills, psychological competency, and non-wavering commitment to self and community. Tonight we honor an individual that has proven that he most definitely possesses these traits. First, he served our country for 6 years as a member of the United States Army. 3 years active duty, 3 years active reserves. His law enforcement career spans over 4 decades and consists of the following: 12 years as Chief of Police for the City of Watauga, 7 years as Carter County's Chief Deputy and Chief Criminal Investigator under Sheriff Paul Peters, 10 years as Chief of Police for Bluff City, 10 years as Unicoi County's Chief Criminal Investigator under Sheriff Kent Harris. While serving under Sheriff Peters, the budgets, as are now, were extremely tight. This individual realized there was a serious need for professional training, however, operating under extremely limited funds. So while performing all other required duties, he committed considerable personal time to becoming a post-certified officer or instructor. This enabled him to teach 4 post-certified classes a year, which resulted in a tremendous savings to the Carter County taxpayers. He also acknowledged at the time the Sheriff's Department was seriously understaffed, especially where road officers were concerned, so he embraced the constables and provided each of them with the proper and necessary training. These constables were more than capable and were willing to provide support for the department's officers. Working collectively, this team of law enforcement professionals provided our citizens with the best service possible, even though the financial means weren't there. Over the years since 1997, he has expanded course offerings and taught hundreds of handgun carry permit classes throughout East Tennessee. Truly an exceptional individual that is committed to the betterment of Carter County. Please help me welcome Mr. Ken Potter. Thank you, Ken. The inscription, Carter County Mayor Leon Humphrey and Carter County Commission honors Kenneth Potter, dedicated law enforcement professional, 30 years of exemplary community service on this day. Thank you, Mr. Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the Carter County Commission. What an honor and a pleasure for me to stand here before you tonight. Instructors are never lost for words, and I am lost for words. Simply, thank you.
Mr. Potter's family is with him tonight, and we ask him to stand and be recognized as well, because it takes that support from home, his wife especially, to be able to support that time away.
We are now at the public comments section. Anyone that would like to address the commission under public comments, please stand to be recognized. Is there anyone that would like to address the commission under public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Acceptance of minutes from previous meeting. You have a copy of the minutes in your packet. Have a motion made by Commissioner Hill. Second by Commissioner Trivett. Any discussion?
I have a correction on page 293.
293,
My first proposal was for the budget recommendation of 249, and it says 248.
249 versus 248. Okay, any other amendments or changes, corrections? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, proceed with the vote. All those in favor respond by aye, those opposed nay. Mr. Lewis. You're doing great, Mr. Lewis. Motion passes, all ayes. Next item is the notaries and bonds. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the notaries and bonds.
Michelle Lee Parker, Vanessa L. Campbell, Wayne Fortner, Laura L. Honeycutt, B.C. Campbell, Kimberly Jones, Harry D. Lee, Lance Simley, Kathy G. Bedford, Teresa Tim Tarman, Rhonda E. Mills, Gary W. Price, Candy Berry, Kathy L. Wilson, Shirley G. Taylor, and not on the list is add Kelly E. Collins.
Have a motion by Trivett and seconded by Culler. Was that correct? Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, proceed with the vote. Twenty-three ayes, motion passes. Next item is County Site Development Grant Application. Ms. Robinson, if you would, please. And if you would, if the Commission would allow, could you give us an update on the history of the grants that we've, and the current status of the grants that we've been awarded to date, and then we can get into this?
Certainly. Good evening, everyone. I'm very pleased to report that we're making great progress on the grant awards that we received this year from the state ECD office. The first one I'll talk about is the Marketing Promotion Support Grant, which equals about $100,000. It's a competitive grant for state ECD to hire Design Sensory to do a corporate attraction grant video for Carter County. They're actually coming Thursday and Friday. They'll be videotaping at the TCAT. They'll be videotaping at Mapes Wire, Borla Industries, and Snap-on Tools. While they're here, they'll also capture footage of Sycamore Shoals State Park and Rome Mountain, just in Watauga Lake, just to show the corporate attraction folks that we're trying to attract to Carter County what it's like to live and play in Carter County. So we're real excited that they're going to be here. The Design Sensory team, if you remember, I believe it was in January of 16, we asked the Commission if they would help fund us hiring Design Sensory to market and brand Carter County and design a new website so that we can get the word out to the world who we are. And as luck would have it, Carter County government, Carter County taxpayers didn't have to pay anything. After the pilot was over for the state, when they rolled it out in 2016 with a select pilot group, they offered it up as a competitive grant offering in, I believe it was February of this year. They gave us 10 days to apply, and we won one of the competitive grants, so we're real excited. The video is going to be unveiled in October at the Governor's Conference, and just as soon as we have the link to show you all the video, we'll send it out and let everyone in the county and the Commission see it. So we're real excited. Also, the 3-Star Grant. Our new ECDB, Joint Economic Community Development Board, had asked me to apply for Carter County for the 3-Star Grant. It was a $25,000 competitive award that we won. We submitted the application with the joint board's approval because the joint board is the governing body for those grant monies per statute, per the state. And we submitted the application with 100% of the money being earmarked for the ACT Work Ready Communities program. So last week, we entered into, we being Carter County government, with Josh drafting the contract, we entered into a contract with the First Tennessee Development District for the expenditure of those funds. 3-Star money, state ECD money, and grants, where there's actually monetary value that's coming to us. It's a reimbursement grant. Has to be carefully reported. There are a lot of hurdles. So I'm the reporting person for Carter County, making sure the Development District spends those funds the way they're supposed to be spent. The funds will go for testing, test prep, the test fees associated with testing, and a small nominal amount for marketing and promotion. So we're really excited. The Development District signed the contract. We had our meeting last week with the Elizabethton City Schools and the Carter County Schools folks. In order to achieve Work Ready Communities certification status, we have some hurdles that we're going to have to get through. The program is normally a 2-year program. That grant money is kind of like Cinderella and the magic hour of midnight. We have to spend the $25,000 through the Development District by April 30th of 18. We don't have 2 years, we've got less than a year. The state changed the program. It used to be July 1st through June 30th of the fiscal year. They awarded us the purchase order July 24th, so we kind of lost July because we're waiting on their approval. And we, because of the new program design, state requirements for all counties that were awarded money, everyone has to spend the money by April 30th. So the quota for us to achieve the first set of goals is 481 tests and 35 businesses supporting. So we're well on our way to trying to hit that goal. Lottie Rhines is the program manager for the Development District, and we have a whole team of folks working diligently from TCAT, Northeast State, the school system. So there's no worry about us not spending every dime. The only worry we've got now is they're so excited, the momentum's there, that they're wanting to test graduating seniors in high school. So the city schools is wanting to test 600. The total school complement's on at 261. So we're looking with the Development District and the school systems for other sources of funding so we can really do the program justice and certainly hit the quota that go from ACT, but to really do what we need to support the community and make it Work Ready certified. That said, Mitch Miller is here from the Northeast Tennessee Regional Economic Development Partnership. I'm sure he'll come up in a little bit to speak, but we are working, we worked just this past week and weekend on a Talent Connect program to help find talented engineers and finance folks for some of our local businesses in the region. So it's all about making sure that we get the right folks trained and certified and get them before our employers. Just week before last, I think it was, we looked on jobsfortennessee.gov, and there's over 500 jobs within a 25-mile radius of Carter County that are posted on the government's website. So we have jobs, we just got to get the right folks connected to the right employers. So leading into this, one of the other grants, it's not a monetary one that we won recently, was the approval from the State Department of Tourism for the tourism district designation, certified tourism district. King Gooch and Chris Schutler and many people worked together to put that before the tourism department. I actually filed the application on their behalf, and we had a few little challenges at the very end that we were awarded that designation so that the folks at the chamber and Caleb Carter would have yet another tool in their arsenal to help get more folks to come visit our wonderful county. So those are the ones that we've been working diligently on, and we're 3 for 3 now, so that's great. Which leads me to why I'm before you today. We learned last week that there is a new opportunity that we need your support with. Tennessee ECD, their rural development group, has just recently posted a site development grant. The site development grant requires a 5% match. There's 2 levels for the grant, 500,000 and $1 million. And I'm sure that they would fund monies up to that point if you didn't need the 500,000 or you didn't need the $1 million. But it has some strings attached to it. That money is for businesses that have been through the Site Select program, the property valuation program. You all may remember, and it's in your packet too, we went through the PEP in 2015, 2016 timeframe with Carter County Demora. John Hartman was involved as well, representing not only the city but Carter County Demora. And we evaluated 8 properties that we put together. Originally, only 2 were put on the table, and the state actually contacted me and said, we really need more than 2. So we came up with a total of 8. And the one property that was determined by Austin Consulting, who the state of Tennessee had hired to do the property evaluations throughout the state of Tennessee, was the Matheson property. Now, you'll remember that some time ago, Commissioner Ward and others had asked for support on helping with, and so had John Hartman, on some of the environmental studies, some of that funding. Previously, we couldn't do that, and we still can't without some creative thought. As you all know, privately held property, you cannot use taxpayer dollars on privately held property. But trying to be out of the box thinking and speaking with Matt Garland, who used to work for State ECD. I was actually at the ACT training session at one of the 3 classes I attended, and I said to him, I said, we've got a problem. We're limited. We don't have inventory. A lot of the grants have to be publicly owned. And he said, ask the commission if they would buy into part ownership of one of the PEP properties. So we did contact Mr. Matheson and met with the mayor and County Attorney Hardin, and I met with Mr. Matheson to see if we applied for this grant, if the commission supported it, would he convey part interest of his property to us so that we would be eligible to apply for this grant. And again, going back, the Austin Consulting firm and the state have deemed that this is our best opportunity to bring more jobs to Carter County. Some of the things that the property was found lacking in, if you remember, the former property owners, I believe it was Jarl Extrusion, and then it was Alcoa, there was large pits in the floor. So there has to be a lot of remediation to fill those pits with, dirt and gravel and concrete. That's going to be costly. Also, one of the buildings, one of the roofs has fallen in. They had like a cupola on it that's fallen in, so that will need to be fixed. And also, some of the feedback Mr. Matheson shared with us that he's gotten is it really needs an access off of Highway 19. So those 3 things could easily total up to about $1 million. So with that $1 million, if we pitch this to the state, if we submit the application, those are the things we'll be asking for. The county will be asking for ownership in that property to the level of our grant award, and the matching funds for $1 million will be $50,000. So if it's $500,000, it'll be 5% of that. So in a nutshell, that's what the grant is. It's got a short window. You have to submit your pre-app by September 29th, so that's why we wanted to bring it to you all for consideration now, and not wait until September and not give you much time to think on it. It will require, before we submit it, working with the county attorney to drop the necessary papers so that we make sure that we have ownership. And here's the other kicker, it's a competitive grant. There's only $10 million statewide, so it'll be hopeful that we'll get it because we are Tier 4 distressed county, or at-risk county. We have 10 distressed areas now. But that's good. That's to our credit in that we might get more support and higher ranking in the grant award. That said, if they chop them up into 20 at 500,000 or 10 at $1 million, I mean, not everybody's going to get one. So this is right now our best hope. And if we don't get it, the contract will read that, all bets are off, the ownership's not conveyed. And of course, the state would have to approve it before, we'll ask for that pre-approval to submit it this way. The flip side of this too, if that doesn't work, it does allow us to actually apply. You will support, either way, the county commission to use that money to buy land. So I do know that the Matheson property has about 8 acres, if you see it in the PEP report, that they're valued at $1,030,000. And so it's possible we could take that grant award if we win it and actually buy property to be able to use to attract. So we did speak with the Joint Economic Community Development Board last week and let them know of our interest. They wholeheartedly support it. They thought it was a great idea. Mitch Miller was there. He too thought it was a great idea, and I'm sure.
Mitch, if you would please come up and add to this, because you've been through this grant program and you know how it's benefited Washington County, and if you could just speak to that.
Can I have one caveat too?
Well, sure, why not?
Since I'm here, can I give an update?
That would be wonderful. We were going to actually come back later in the year, but now's fine.
I'm going to pass out some information to you all online and share it.
While he's passing that out, John was not at the last JUCDB meeting, but I did have a chance to talk to him during the Talent Connect program. And based on the initial conversation, he supports it as well. So I don't know if he's here tonight, but I just thought I'd share that with you.
Well, the thing about it is with these grants, we've got an excellent track record to date. There's no guarantee that we can get this one, but the city, the JECDB board is all in support of this. This is an opportunity that we don't get every day, and time is of the essence with the short notification, so we don't have a lot of time to work the application up.
And the way we're going to approach it is from a collaborative effort, and that's in part why Mitch is here, because it truly takes a team to do the mountain.
Okay? Mitch.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Susan. I was at the meeting last week. I wanted to pass you out just kind of a quick overview and give you guys an idea of a project that we actually use for Washington County, Tennessee for their industrial park. We were looking at actually grading 2 sites that the county had owned for about a 5-year period. There were major challenges with those sites, such as access to them. You all know Northeast Tennessee does not have flat land, so as we were looking at selling cow pastures, we realized we had a heck of a lot better opportunity if they were flat sites. And really, we struggled really because it was about 15 miles from the interstate. So there were some challenges on that side that we felt that we really needed to enhance the appearance and give us a better opportunity to attract jobs and investment into the community. So we collaboratively partnered on our application with Washington County government who owned the land. And that also included the highway department because we did need to construct and access roads. The Economic Development Council also had skin in the game as well. Johnson City Power Board had also been a partner, not only purchasing property, but actually providing utilities out to sites, as well as grading out a site for potential transformer out there as well. The town of Jonesboro extending water and sewer, and Atmos Energy actually putting gas lines as well as a service station there as well. So altogether, as we looked at these sites, we had a total cost of about $1.6 million. Before we ever even got this grant, we had made the commitment on all of our ends to fund that $1.6 million project. So when I say collaborative, that really helped us in our application process, that you had multiple governments, you had your economic development arm, as well as your local utilities there being part of that project. All together at the same time, we were also applying for the TVA Best Prep Program grant as well, which is very similar to the site development grant. And out of that $1.6 million, we were actually able to shave off about half the cost. And that was actually seen from the county. Our economic development board put in $250,000 in the project as well, which was state committed. So altogether, it really cost the county at the end of the day about $1.1 million for about $700,000 for a project that really was about 1.6 plus. So that was big significant savings, and we had to have partners, but I gotta tell you, in hearing feedback from the state on this part of this program and this grant, that's what stood out. Washington County is a tier 1 county, and when I say that, what that means is, basically, as we look at economic stress, there's a least of stress. So when they look at potential opportunities like you see in Hancock County or Johnson County, those counties get special privileges over Washington County. And if it wasn't for the collaboration side of it, I doubt we would have got that grants. So altogether now, we are actually grading out 2 sites. These should be completed up within the next 30 days, but I gotta tell you, we have had a significant amount of interest. We actually had a large 1,000 job project go tour the site this last week. So having the state engaged and involved, I can guarantee you, their money will go a long way in making sure their investments get top priority, and you see people actually visiting sites that they put money into. So it does create a lot of opportunity for economic development opportunities to present themselves and prospects to actually come visit, which is an extremely positive thing. I know with Carter County tomorrow providing assistance to this project, that's a step in the right direction because you've already got one arm involved. We also need to look at ways that even NetRep, and I'm willing to even potentially put money out there if we can do this collaboratively together to figure out how we can make this that much stronger. Having the support of the county commission, and I think also encouraging Elizabeth and electric system and Elizabeth to be at the table as well, will be a very strong and solid message to make this opportunity a priority for the state of Tennessee. So anything that we can do, I'm happy to help, as well as if you have questions about how the grant may work, I'm happy to help with answering those as well.
Any questions? You've heard the presentation. Do you have any questions for Ms. Robinson? Mr. Von Cannon.
I don't have a question, I just have a statement concerning the Austin Consulting attachment that's in your packet. I assume all of you read it as I did. And there's one glaring error in this report from the Austin Consulting, paid for by the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. On page 5, the very first sentence, the majority of Carter County, roughly 80%, is located in Cherokee National Forest. Wrong. Just for the record, Carter County has 222,720 acres in the county, in the national forest, not necessarily including TVA lands. There's 86,294 acres, and that does not compute to 80%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Von Cannon, for that. Ms. Lewis.
Been a lot of pros and cons about this induction agent, but I'm glad we got Ms. Watson here. She done a good job, and I believe she got Carter County Hall, so I praise her for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. She's not doing a good job. She's doing an excellent job. Track record speaks for itself. Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch.
Let
For
me
all
share
you-
with you too, the $50,000 investment, the way this will be written, and the county attorney can speak for it. The goal is to get 100% of that money back, so it's not to be expended and gone. When the property is sold, Matheson sells it to the investor that buys it, the intent is that that money will be given back to the taxpayer, so it would hopefully, if we can get $1 million, then we'll have a prorational share of the property once it's sold. I believe that it might be on the market for $4 million. So anyway, it'll be proportionate. So the taxpayers will get every bit of that 50 back if we win the award, whether it's 500,000 or $1 million. And then whatever that percentage is of ownership based upon the improvements done and agreed to in the contract, and you all get to see a copy of the contract if you bless it tonight. So it's just not, you'll be part of it. But the intent is to either the county will get that money back, because the $1 million will be ours, or the 500,000 will be ours, but it'll help to improve the property and sell the property. But that doesn't mean it'll sell for $5 million. If it takes money to bring it up to a sellable level, it might be something short of that, but definitely the taxpayers will get their 50 back. But it could be that you all decide at that point in time, whatever that amount is, that you might want to use it to incentivize the new investor coming to buy the property?
All of that will have to be worked out, and I've had 3 different businesses in there myself. And it's just like with a home that you're trying to sell. If there's problems with it, then it's going to fall way down on the desired list of whoever that prospective buyer or owner is. And the 2 major obstacles that we see is access on 19 and those pits in the floor. And somebody that's in a rush to get their business here, that's an unknown to them. And if we can level that floor where people can bring their equipment in, right in, and they can see that, and that's just one less objection that they would have. So what you would be approving tonight is allowing us to make the application, Ms. Robinson to make the application, and you would be committing to 5% whatever the grant award is, provided we get the grant. We're awarded that grant. There's no guarantee. But if we do, then you would have to commit to that 5% match. Mr. Aiken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last time we discussed this property, and it was brought before us to consider contributing to the county funds, one of the objections happened to be revolving around core samples and contamination of the ground and surrounding property. Does anybody know what that has, how that has turned out? Have we, Carter County tomorrow, board members, anything about that particular issue?
We've not met yet to discuss.
Then, Attorney Hardy, and I know that this is a question, I think, for you, in that if we were to use a portion of this money to purchase a part of this property and there were found deficiencies, which would involve the Environmental Protection Agency, would the county be liable for that?
I know, based on what's being discussed here, the county would own a certain percentage, at least up to and including the amount of the award that we get. I can't say specifically, if that percentage of ownership would apply to something like that. So I really can't answer that question. I would hope, I think, to my knowledge, that there has been some environmental study there, and maybe they've progressed to the next level. I know there was 3 maybe levels of environmental studies. I don't personally know the status of it, but certainly, I mean, one could make the connection that if we owned a percentage of the building, if something were found that maybe, that is something that could be part of the contract, that could be negotiated, and there could be language in there that protects the county, certainly.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Mr. Holden.
What's the time frame we're looking at here? Once you make the grant application, what happens after that?
There's some other milestones that we have to hit. The pre-app is September 29th, so I have to move the letter of intent, the pre-app by then. The actual application, I believe, is, the deadline is November, and the award is in April of 18, as memory serves. So they move fast. And so far, we have a good track record with the state. They know that we are, they know that we're committed. This is all about the PEP. And there are some other properties in here, if we do find out there's some environmental challenges. The Matheson property is the one that the state in Austin highly recommends as our best hope. However, the Ritchie property, it has some excavation, topography issues, but that's 100 acres there. So again, we can buy land. And I did talk to the folks that own the Ritchie property. They have agreed that we could showcase it and the Matheson property, and also the Borla property will be showcased in the video. Now, Alex Borla is not willing to sell. And so, it has to be in part publicly owned. But I do know that the Ritchie folks would be interested in this kind of arrangement with us. So right now, tonight, if you give us the approval that you'll give us the 5%, before we file it, we can have the paperwork back before you at the next commission meeting for y'all to look at. And this is us coming to the commission. We want to do what you want to do. And again, keeping in mind that the taxpayers, once it's sold, they'll get their money back, and y'all have then some to do with it. So we have options. If we just have an approval to start working on it, and that you commit to funding us the money.
Commissioner Hill.
Were these 2 different projects we were talking about, or is the Matheson proposal that you're discussing with us now. We're proposing to co-market this with Carter County tomorrow. We're actually, they'll be a part of this.
We won't be marketing it. This is all about trying to improve the property and get it up, because Matheson owns the majority share. They already have a contract, a 3-year option with CCT, and then they also have, to my understanding, they're listed with another commercial broker too. We might have some input in, helping to market it. That's fine, but the effort right here, the partnership right here, is to bring it up, and then that way, we're not going to preclude CCT from doing what they were doing. It doesn't impede any of the other agreements that they have.
The whole intent here, Mr. Hill, is to take advantage of a grant opportunity that will allow us to make improvements to the property so that it is marketable.
Right.
The holdup before, the discussion we had pertaining to the environmental studies, that is not what would stop somebody at the door. What's going to stop somebody at the door when they walk in and they see that it doesn't have what they need, especially a solid level floor system that they can set equipment on.
And the difference here too, if I might add, once we do this, the grant application is to get the state of Tennessee to certify the site. Because we have no certified sites now, so if we do this remediation using the state's money, and we make it a certified site, then the state will also help to promote it and to help us get it sold to an investor.
We have partnerships now that we've never had before, and that's why we're having this success. But nonetheless, Mr. Aco.
Yeah, one more. And Sue, thank you for presenting this evening and the work that you've done. Thank you. I want to ask our Carter County tomorrow board members, do you all not have an option on this property? 3 more years. 3 more years?
And this doesn't impede that.
Okay, and I just want to, I think the commission needs to know that, because there has been some objection of us working with Carter County tomorrow. I don't want to get us in the middle of this and people say, uh-oh, we've got a person or a group of folks we don't know. I want to make sure when we approve this that we're all on board.
Mr. John Hartman, on Friday, when we talked to him during the Talent Connect, he was brought up to speed because of the short time frame. He wasn't able to make it. He was in support of it. Our newly formed JECDB, where we've made a couple of success hits there already, is in support of it. It's working together collaboratively with an opportunity that we didn't have before. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. One, we had basically the same issue, maybe not with the environment, the economic development that came before this council was the EPA, the core drilling, to find out the environmental of the ground up there, which was in partnership with our neighboring agents, Elizabeth, and we voted it down. You're doing, it's the same thing, it's just under a different head. Secondly, you can, anybody singly that owns such a wealth of property, such as we're going to put the amount of it, 4.3, what it's been sold for.
Well, it's been asking about.
You would think there was some financial responsibility there that they would, or initiative that they would go in and improve their building to start with, which nothing has been done. The other thing, the building's in such shape, it's just a pig. You can put lipstick on it, you can put glasses on it, you can put shoes on it, get you to dance, but you still got a pig.
Commissioner Johnson, I respect your comments wholeheartedly. The reason that we took this approach to recommend was strictly because of what the Austin Consulting Property Evaluation Report said. That was Carter County's best hope. The terms of the grant that you have a copy of in your packet said they'll only support property. So that was the reason. Now, again, I mentioned earlier, there's a plan B. You can apply for the grant and go buy land, and then you'll have some inventory. And so, but the only thing is, the language in the grant application from ECD, from the Rural Development Department, said it has to be one of the properties in this PEP evaluation. So if you don't like this body, Matheson, that's fine. I mean, we're just trying to help the county have some inventory and try to bring some more jobs in.
Well, one second, Chairman. I've got four commissioners that want to speak. You got to look at this as an opportunity. We've not had this opportunity before. And 50,000 against $1 million, I don't know about you, but I would be looking at that return. I'd trade nickels like that every day of my life. So if you decide that you don't want to do it, don't say anything to me about jobs again, period. Commissioner Ward?
You know, I brought this before the commission for us to study this site, and it was denied. And I'm telling you people, this is one of the only chances we have to develop and bring jobs in here. You know, that's why Carter County tomorrow looked at this property, went ahead and spent $5,000 to get a commitment from the Matheson people so they couldn't back out if we was to sell the property. So this is the only opportunity we have here in Carter County to market a piece of property that's an eyesore right now that we need to improve upon, bring jobs to Carter County. You know, yes, we agreed, or some of the commissioners agreed not to spend $2,500 for a study. You know, I thought that was wrong because the city of Elizabeth come on board. Everybody come on board and accept us. Shame on us. Shame on us for not doing it. You know, here, now we want to invest in it and get some ownership. You know, this is the only way we're going to bring jobs to Carter County. So, you know, like the mayor said, you know, I don't agree with him a lot, but I'm agreeing with him here. We need to make sure we do everything we possibly can to market this piece of property, whatever we have to do.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Ms. Culler?
Yes, if this is approved, where was the money come from?
$50,000. If the money's coming from the state, whatever that award is, we don't know what that amount's going to be. But the match would have to come from your general fund unless Ms. Krista has another secret hiding place.
Unfortunately, I don't. I wish I did. It'd be nice to have for things like this, but fund balance is all I have.
Okay. Mr. Hill?
Yeah, I just, when this property came up for discussion previously, we were directed to believe that Carter County tomorrow no longer exists. Those were the exact words used. I think this sounds like an incredible bargain for us. I just want to make sure that we're going to recognize that Carter County tomorrow does exist and that we're willing to go forward with those guys because we've treated them not so kindly in the past.
Mr. Von Cannon?
Mr. Ward is correct. I've had probably some experience in this world here because I know that when we did the Nissan project, we had to shell out a ton of money for site preparation and roadways. And this is the only piece of property that's available that would be sustainable in developing jobs. Therefore, it doesn't matter who gets the credit for the deal. It needs to be done. It needs to be done, and it's been done hundreds of times in this, although this is a semi-new program, it's a takeoff of the old block grant program. The last time we got any money in Carter County for block grant preparation was Cherokee Park in 1981 or 2 or 3, and it's been full for years. I admit some of the land was used, in my opinion, incorrectly. It's used for commercial rather than industrial purposes. However, there were jobs created. This is the purpose of this new program, is site preparation. Without site preparation, you're not going to get a company to look at a place where they can't get to. Not that they can't in this case, but this is our best opportunity. And I would advise the commission to just take advantage of this. You're not going to get a better deal money-wise than this.
Mitch Miller?
You're absolutely correct, Commissioner Von Cannon, Commissioner Fuller. I'm willing on our end, and I think this is what I mean when I say collaborative, that I'm willing to be at the table with a financial monetary investment in this project as well if it comes through. I think the same should be asked and probably be well considered in Carter County tomorrow, City of Elizabeth, electric system, county, and beyond. So that's true what I mean when I say collaborative, and that will go a long way in this application process.
Mr. Carroll.
I'll make a motion that we apply for this grant.
Have a motion made by Mr. Carroll to make the application for the grant, second by Mr. Hill. Any discussion? Mr. Peters.
I'd like to just remind everybody, we're only one month into our new budget, and we're already spending $50,000. That's not to say whether I'm for it or against it, but we do this every year. We set our budget, and then we start spending money like crazy, and it's got to come from somewhere. But I just want to remind everybody, we're only 1 month into our new budget.
Commissioner, your points are well taken, but at no point in time have we had this type of opportunity to make an investment in our community that could possibly result in employment. No guarantees, but this is an opportunity. So, you know, we can be penny wise and dollar foolish and not invest in our community, but I think we need to take that leap of faith from time to time, because that's what's held this county back as long as it has. We need to move forward. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to look on to Mr. Peters. He's exactly right. If you all remember, we started out with budget hearings last year, plus $500,000 in the revenue. Now, we're only 2 months into the fiscal year, and right now, we're obligated, our obligation because of actions taken this commission, we're over $500,000, or $150,000 in debt right now, outside of our budget. Yeah, I want jobs, and I like to spend money, but when it's on the backs of the taxpayer for a pig with hope.
Mr. Lyons.
I'm just going to comment, this amount of money, as I watched the budget process take place this year, and we approved it last month, knowing that it was not going to sustain an annual budget, I don't think this is going to hurt very much compared to what we passed last month.
And Mr. Johnson, if that pig is not in the poke, it don't cost you a dime. The pig's got to be there.
Sir, did we take money from our savings to cover our budget? That's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, go ahead, don't address that.
She mentioned the Ritchie property. Is that an alternative if we don't consider the Madison property?
Well, wait just a second. It is. It's a member of the PEP program. But when you look at that site, with all due respect, the infrastructure is not there. And it would take considerably more to put the infrastructure in place that's needed to make that a site that a prospective employer would look at, as opposed to this one. That's why, with our discussions, we hit this property first. Biggest bang for the buck, fastest return on investment.
And the most recommended.
Yes.
But,
Mr.
And again, keep in mind, there are 8 properties in that report. There are 4 that were targeted, highlighted. So my request to the commission tonight is just to give, if you all to give us permission to work to make the application. You know, we might find a report that says the core samples or some environmental study, we have to go to plan B. But, you know, the good thing is if you invest the $50,000 in the property sales, the county citizens get their money back. And, you know, the potential is with the investments, I mean, $1 million property or $1 million investment for $50,000 that once it's sold, taxpayers get their money back.
Commissioner Ward.
Saying we get our money back, it's the same deal that we presented with the with the environmental study. So if we're getting our money back.
There's a difference, Mr. Ward, with all due respect. At that point in time, it's a private piece of property, a government agency, and now this is a totally different thing. We have to have the ownership.
I'm just trying to make a point that there's an opportunity for us to get the money back and not use the $50,000, get this property sale.
Correct. Sorry.
Win-win.
One last comment here, Commissioner Peters.
Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, I'm going to remind you again.
Yes, sir, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You are promoting something, a motion that's on the floor, and you cannot do that from the chair.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you would, proceed with the vote. All those in favor of this grant application, respond by aye. Those opposed, nay. (20 ayes). Thank you, Commission. It's the right thing. Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate you. Oh, yeah, he's got to do an update. I'm sorry.
I'd be happy to stick around the end if that's.
No, let's do it now. Okay?
Correct. Thank you. Outside of speaking about the site readiness program, thank you for the opportunity to speak on activity and what's going on with our regional economic partnership. Susan did mention that this past weekend, we did host 20 college students as well as 2 faculty, one with the University of Tennessee and one with Virginia Tech, in their career services department in the area to showcase what it's like not only to live as a young professional in this area of Northeast Tennessee, but also with potential job opportunities with 7 companies. Those 7 companies that were part of the program that actually have job openings of high-skilled positions are Snap-on, NN, Digital Tool Services, Den Supply, General Shell, Mulligan Flooring, and A.O. Smith. These companies all are looking for highly skilled individuals, primarily in engineering, but also finance as well when you look at General Shell and NN. And what they are looking to do is actually, this is something that they approached us with a few years back about a challenge they were having as a company in terms of talent attraction and recruitment. They have a major need where 50 to 60% of their workforce is set to retire in the next 5 years. What that means for a company like Nuclear Fuel Services that employs close to 900 people is, that's about 450 people that may be leaving that job within the next 5 years. That's pretty scary. So we have been working diligently with them to really try to get talent in front of them on a pretty regular basis. This is a program that we thought could be really instrumental to not only provide them with a job opportunity, but also word them out to some of the best marketing that we have today. Social media is great. Millennials use it quite a bit. They talk about their experiences. One of the things that we got to do was actually go out to Carter's Gap. Caleb Carter actually led the hike there and had 20 kids up on top of a beautiful mountain range, taking selfies, putting it up on social media from Instagram, Facebook, and beyond, and then talk about it with their friends, but also talking about it in the Johnson City Press. Really goes a long way. Some of the best natural beauty you can find, really in the entire Southeast, if not the U.S., is right here in our backyard. So definitely appreciate Kelly to do that. Also going on site tours, Susan and John Hartman were very instrumental in helping us shuttle these students around and talking about this area as well. So it was a great program, and I really can't speak highly enough of the kids that we actually brought in. And quite honestly, a lot of those folks probably are going to be getting job offers here within the next 2 to 3 months as they get through their final semesters. Also, in conjunction with Talent Connect, we were also part of a regional effort called the Red Carpet Tour that Sullivan County Networks, our counterpart in Sullivan Hawkins County, puts on, for site consultants, representatives from the Department of Economic and Community Development, as well as TVA, were in the area looking at sites and also understanding this area as well in terms of location and amenities that we have. So I was bouncing back and forth between both of those events as well. Both were tied around the night race at Bristol, so we had very high remarks. I think we showed extremely well as a region, really a greater region when you look at both of the metros with Sullivan County, Bristol, Kingsport, MSA, and the Johnson City MSA as well. Alongside the Department of Economic and Community Development, we have been working with Alec McMahon, the regional director here, and we will have Commissioner Bob Roth actually coming into the area September the 21st. We'll be doing a town hall session in Unicoi County and also making a stop in Carter County as well to speak with some existing companies. As we get everything firmed out, we would like to invite each and every one of you, and you'll be getting an email on that. I'd like to also talk about an outdoor task force that we have put together. This outdoor task force really is looking at a non-traditional side of economic development. That's promoting the things that we have that I call natural capital. Things like mountains, streams, and that includes fishing, hiking, and you name it. These are pieces that can definitely bring in economic growth. Definitely commend the Carter County Commission, as well as Mayor Humphreys and Susan's work to get these new tourism districts established. I think that would certainly make our efforts that much easier. But I'd also like to thank Commissioner Hill for being part of that group, as well as Caleb Carter and members from the IDEAS group as well, who have been helping work together with Cherokee National Forest Service, Forest Rangers here, and we also have Doug Byerly, the top guy with Cherokee National Forest, coming in on the 29th to talk about opportunities that we can work on together and hopefully get some outside assistance from them and also be of assistance to them as they look at planning in the future. Last few things I'll mention, we're having investor lunch on August 24th. We also got an email. If you'd like to come, please let me know, shoot me a text or call me or grab me as I'm walking out. Be happy to get you on the list. Also want to thank Commissioner Von Cannon. I got to tour the Vinberg property. I think I've seen every square inch of that. There's a lot of missing windows, but we'll see what we can do to help you out. I definitely commend your efforts. There's some great businesses in there, and you've done a great job really helping them out, promoting them as well. To be your age, I think you move around a lot better than I do. And then last thing that I will mention, we do have an existing industry project that we've been working pretty diligently on, and I hope to have an announcement soon, which could actually equate to a little over 300 jobs in Carter County. So as things progress on that end, I'll definitely keep in touch, and thank you guys all for your support on what we do.
Thank you, Mitch. We appreciate what you're doing for us.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Why don't we finish this lease agreement? I don't think that's going to cause a lot of time, because
Okay.
I do think the one afterwards is going to be.
Oh, okay.
We'll get that down, if that's to your pleasure.
That one should just go just as quick, Commissioner Acuff. Okay, but nonetheless, let's go ahead and do lease agreement to install the ATM, then we'll take a break.
I make the motion we install this.
You make a motion to approve the lease agreement. Is there a second? Mr. Carroll? So, Mr. Trivett? Second by Carroll. Now discussion. Any discussion? Mr. Hill, do you have something you'd like to say?
Get her done.
Get her done? Anyone else that would like to speak opposing this?
No, I'm not opposing, I just want to ask a question, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I would assume that this is a regular contract that is issued through the community credit union. This isn't something that you prepared, correct?
No, it is totally something I prepared.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to ask that.
We asked him to do that early on, Commissioner. I'm
If you have
sorry.
any criticism, I didn't do it.
Well, I just was looking at some of the language here, so I wanted to make sure where we stood.
Is there something that you see that needs to be amended,
Well,
Commissioner?
no, I mean, the automatic renewal, we've run into those before. Yes, and I understand that it can be terminated within a 30-day notice by either party, but I know that that's probably standard procedure, but still.
Well, the reason behind that, we were trying to give them at least 1 year when they laid out the actual cost they're going to put out to purchase this thing and install it. It's a 30-day contract beyond that. At any point, 30 days, it's gone if we want it gone. I don't see it as any kind of issue. I think it was more or less a convenience thing, because once it's there, and I don't foresee there being an issue, but if there is, 30 days later, it's gone if we want it gone, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Acuff?
Yes, sir.
That'll take 3 hours off of our meeting when it comes up.
Commissioner Garland, did you have something? Is there anyone else before I ask the clerk to call the roll or take the vote? Madam Clerk, proceed with the vote. "23 ayes, motion passes. We'll go into recess. Be back at 8 or 7:30. We are back in session. Please take your seats. We are now back in session. The next item on the agenda is the resolution to amend the reapportionment/redistricting plan for Carter County. County Attorney, would you like to read that resolution?
I'll be happy to. I think our new rule is that I'll summarize it, but if somebody wants to.
Go ahead and summarize if somebody wants more detail. I just thought with all of the questions and concern on this that it may be good. Mr. Jenkins.
I would just like to ask if it'd be all right if I take the podium just a little bit.
After he summarizes?
Yeah.
Yes, please. Commissioner Ward.
I would really like for you to read it to the public, because the public hasn't had this opportunity to hear this. I know we got a new rule, but we break rules all the time.
I make the motion that he reads the resolution.
We have a motion made by Mr. Garland, second by Mr. Ward, that the county attorney read the resolution. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, proceed with the vote. Mr. Tester. And Mr. Lewis. There you go. Reveal the vote. 23 ayes. Go ahead, Attorney.
This is a resolution to amend the reapportionment/redistricting plan for Carter County, Tennessee. Whereas Tennessee Code Annotated Section 5-1-111 requires that at least every 10 years, county legislative bodies shall change the boundaries of districts or redistrict a county entirely if necessary to apportion the county legislative body so that the members represent substantially equal populations. Whereas Carter County previously prepared a plan consistent with the provisions of Tennessee Code Annotated Section 5-1-111, which provided for a county legislative body composed of 24 members and created 8 districts as depicted on the official redistricting map for Carter County prepared at that time. Whereas said plan was fully confirmed and approved by the Board of County Commissioners for Carter County via adoption of Resolution Number 553 on August 15, 2011. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners for Carter County has debated this issue and has determined that it is in the best interest of the citizens of Carter County to amend said resolution to reduce the membership of the county legislative body from 24 members to 16 members. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners for Carter County, Tennessee, meeting in regular session on this the 21st day of August, 2017, the lawful quorum of said board being present, with majority voting in the affirmative as follows. Section 1, there is hereby adopted an amended reapportionment plan for Carter County, which provides for 2 county commissioners in each of the existing 8 districts for a total county legislative body consisting of 16 members. The districts that the members of the county legislative body serve are depicted on the official redistricting map for Carter County prepared pursuant to TCA 5-1-110 as adopted on August 15, 2011. Said districts are not altered by this resolution in any way. Section 2, all members of the county legislative body shall be elected at large within the district wherein the candidate seeks election. The 2 candidates receiving the greatest number of votes in each district shall be elected. Section 3, this plan shall take effect beginning with the election cycle of 2018. Therefore, all current county commissioners will complete the term of office which they were elected to serve. Be it further resolved, this resolution shall take effect from and after the date of its approval, the welfare of the county demanding. Be it further resolved that if any clause, section, or provision of this resolution is found to be illegal, invalid, or unenforceable in any respect, the illegality, invalidity, or unenforceability of the remaining clauses, sections, or provisions herein shall not in any way be affected or impaired thereby. Be further resolved that all resolutions of the Board of County Commissioners of Carter County, Tennessee, which are in conflict with this resolution, are hereby repealed.
With that, is there a motion pertaining to Ms. Brown? A motion to adopt the resolution? Brown? Okay, is there a second? A second by Mr. McQueen. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm sorry. I did bypass Mr. Jenkins. I apologize, Mr. Jenkins.
Now, I've done a lot of thinking about this.
Mr. Lewis, if you would please wait just 1 minute. Let Mr. Jenkins do his thing that he asked for, his presentation, and then we'll let you next be recognized immediately when we get into discussion, okay? Since he's the guy that introduced it, brought it to committee, forced the issue, let's give him an opportunity to reflect, okay?
Commissioner, I want to thank you for a small part of your night. How exciting it is to have a chance to be a part of history, Carter County history. To tell you the truth, I haven't been this excited since I first got elected, and I haven't been this nervous since election night. So, now to ease your mind, I took the time to collect my thoughts, wrote a few points down, Because Lord knows when I get up here, I start butchering anything I'm presenting. So, do me a favor for the next 5 minutes and keep an open mind and an open heart. Tonight before us, we have a chance to do what the prior commission could and should have done years ago when the people spoke. We have a simple resolution to amend the 2011 reapportionment from 3 commissioners per district to 2. We're simply voting that when the people go to the ballot box in 2018, they'll only be voting for 2 instead of 3. We're not changing the size, adding or taking away districts. As far as the committee goes, we have that figured out too. If everybody would look at that, it's in your packet. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to do it. Right quick. I mean, it's pretty simple. Right now, you have one set of committees that you're supposed to go to. One. If this is done, my proposed layout, or the rules and bylaws layout, is you would have 2 sets of meetings to go to. Smaller meetings, really. The meeting that we sit in has 4. On this new one, you would only have 2 per night. There would be one night that has 3 meetings. But right now, instead of you sitting in one extra committee, or you would be sitting in one extra committee. Does everybody see it and understand it and comprehend it? As we debate this resolution, I want you to keep in mind that this is not what I want. It's not what the mayor wants. It's not what you want. We're not here for our wants. We're here for the people. We are commissioned by the people, for the people. I want to tell a quick story right quick about the first time I heard about downsizing. It happened a little over 3 years ago, about supper time. I was out campaigning, going door to door. Green as ever about campaigning. Scared to death, really. So I knocked on this door, and this gentleman opened up. Looks to be a big construction type, a little intimidating. Probably just got off work, and here I am aggravating. He invites me in, and we sit down and start having a conversation. He asked me what I thought about a smaller commission. And I responded truthfully back, I really don't know, sir. Well, he begins to tell me how a smaller commission would be more efficient. And we continued to talk a little bit longer. I shook his hand. I went on to the next house. To my surprise, I had the same conversation many times with many different voters over the next few weeks. So this stuck. It was clear to me that this one item was important to the 6th district. It wasn't important to me at the time. But at the time I knocked on the first door, heck, I never thought about it. That one item made its way to the top of my list. So yes, it might seem that I've been pushing this for the last little bit, rightfully so, and for a good reason. It's what the people ask of me. So when I tell you that this is not about me, it's not. So please don't question my integrity. If I truly thought this was illegal, I would have never put it on the rules and bylaws agenda. I've done my research. I've spent time with CTAS. We had the county attorney send a letter to the AG close to a year ago with no response to this day that I know of. Josh has gave his opinion about it, but I would hate to think that this commission would not do what they know in their heart is right because of the potential lawsuit. Because let me remind you, over half of us voted to go full-fledged into a lawsuit not too long ago with Carter County tomorrow. And here we have an item that sits in the gray area. It's not black or white, that it's legal or illegal. It's in that gray area. But what we can most certainly do here tonight is to vote for what the people of Carter County has asked us to do and has been asking us to do for years. So Commission, ask yourself, when has it ever been illegal to amend a resolution? I see before me a commission that wants to listen to the people and wants to be proactive instead of reactive. So I want the people of the 6th district to know that I've tried my best to do what you have asked me to do. So, thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
Okay, now, I think number one is that I have talked to a lot of people in the 6th district, and about 40% to 60%, and they say they really is not important about the commissioners. They want jobs and they want more taxes. Now, I think I'll be put on the ballot and let each citizen of Carter County vote on it. They want to downsize, that's good. They don't, I don't think we should force them to do something they don't want to do. And I don't see what that's got a whole lot of thing to do with the commission anyway. Now, I got a thing from CTAS today. I called them a while back and they just got it up there today. Now, CTAS says at this time, they don't recommend reappointment. I had the letter from CTAS, that's what it says.
Mr. Lewis, I would suggest you read on down on that email.
The commissioners, they don't recommend against the changing the legality of the reappointment of the commissioner. They do it in 2/16. Now, they also say that they need to do it every 10 years. That is the CTAS said now, the legal points it on the thing. Every 10 years, that's what they say. And they also say that they got a lawsuit right now, and it's opinion now. They don't say it might happen. They said it's opinion right now in Washington County. And they further would recommend that if we're going to do something like this, we would wait and see what Washington County does. If they win the lawsuit, or if they lose the lawsuit. I mean, if you win it, then we go ahead and do it. If they lose it, then we violate the law. Now, I stood up here and took an oath that I would uphold the law. And swore to the God of the country, I would uphold what they told me to do. Now, I've got to do that. Now, if our legal system, the lawyers, Nashville, don't recommend it at this time. Now, they didn't say it was illegal. They said they don't recommend it at this time. That's the same as we need to follow what they recommend. That's what we're here for. But anyway, that's, I just want to tell you what the CTAS says about it, what I know about it.
Thank you for sharing that. Ms. Culler.
Yes, I would like for our attorney to weigh in on his opinion.
Sure. I think I made it pretty clear in the committee that I was in, and there was an article in the paper about it where I basically said what I would say here. I've had people tell me, show me where it says that you can't do it. And all I would say to that is, the county is not an individual. Typically, an individual is prohibited from doing something. That there's a statute against murder. If not for that statute, it would be illegal. You could do it. The county is kind of the opposite. We are given by state law the authority to do things. We are told what we can do. The statute in this case says we can reapportion anytime we deem necessary to maintain substantially equal representation. This has got nothing to do with maintaining substantially equal representation. This doesn't change that math. You're simply taking commissioners away. And what Mr. Jenkins said, with all due respect, and let me make this clear, I take no position on the size of the commission. I wouldn't care if there were 124 of you. Great, I'll work with you. I wouldn't care if there's 8 of you. Whatever. All I can do is my level best to try to interpret what the law says and give you my opinion. I don't think anything is tied to Washington County, personally. I do think they'll probably win their lawsuit. I do. But what they did was change districts. They redrew district lines and changed the representation within those districts to gain a better ratio of representation. They were 9.9 and now they're changing to be 2.4. Our county is like 8.7. There is no proposal to change that number. We're not doing anything to increase the amount of representation per voter or change that math. All we're doing is taking away a commissioner from each district. Got nothing to do with it. So, yes, I agree. If we were doing that, if we were changing district lines or we were looking at population based on the number of commissioners, yes, we do have that authority. Certainly, no question. We're not doing that. We're not doing that at all. So, for that reason, I say we are not given the authority to do what you're trying to do. I don't know how to make it any more clear than that. Even, and there could be arguments based on population change in this district or that district. That's meaningless. All we can use at this point is the 2010 census data. That's it. It doesn't matter if everyone in Hampton has left and they're gone. Meaningless. All we can use is the 2010 data, no matter what's changed since then. So if somebody has a plan where they're going to redraw the districts and change that overall number of equal representation, by all means. Washington County did that, and it took them a year to form a committee and redraw those lines in conjunction with the comptroller. Nobody's doing that here. All you're doing is taking a commissioner away from each district. So I don't know how to make it any more clear than that. I simply feel we don't have the authority to do it. Lawsuit or no, and if we're sued and you do it, I'll do my best to defend it. But I think it's my job on the front end to give you my opinion, and that's it, as plain as I can make it.
Commissioner Von Cannon.
One more question.
Okay.
That would open us up for a lawsuit possibly, is that correct?
The statute certainly provides that any citizen can file a suit in Chancery Court and say, hey, they're not following the proper redistricting reapportionment plan, and yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Von Cannon.
Reported correspondence we've had with Nashville. I also have had correspondence with Nashville. The executive director of the Commissioners Association, that would be Mr. Charles Curtis. Now, some of you know that I consult with him quite often about things, but he says this. He says, as long as you keep your representation equal, and that's, you're still keeping them equal, 2 commissioners per district, 8 districts. You've only, what you've done is just produced 1 in each district. But he says that, again, he sees nothing wrong at this time, as long as you keep your representation equal. I think we've all established that people want this. They want the commission reduced. I started out by polling 50 people, and I've got 6 no's. Since that time, though, 20-some people have come forth on the internet, and I guess the reason they've come forth is they're the ones that are wanting the reduction, and I had one that said it's not, the time isn't right, and one said another no. So look at your percentage. We're still talking about the high 70s, 80-some%. The people want it. It's just a matter of how do we get it done. I will say this, I'd like to see a vote tonight for this reason. I want to see how many of you are going to vote to reduce the commission, even though you promised when you were running for office that you would reduce the commission. So I want to see how many of you fulfill your promise to your constituents.
Mr. Tester.
I'm not against reducing the commission, but I am against this resolution from the way it is, because it's going to cut voters out. Yeah, if we wait till 2020 and do it right, because, okay, I've been in this county, worked in this county for the last 30 years. And this county, this is one of the counties that's made up of what's called the First Judicial District. Carter, Washington, Unicoi, and Johnson counties. And the people, when it comes to electing criminal court judges, district attorneys, circuit court judges, Unicoi County and Johnson County might as well stay home. Because if any of those candidates, Carter and Worcester County, they're elected. Go back and check the record. They're elected if they carry those 2 counties. Really, and that's why they would want to hear the last election. They was talking about changes on that stuff in Nashville, because they know they have no vote. And if you do this tonight, people in Upper Stony Creek, people in Elk Mills, they might just stay home on election because they're not going to have no vote up. Because Hunter, just to give you one example, Hunter is the largest district in the first district. And Hunter will put the two top voters come out of Hunter, the rest of people stay home. And that's where we'll get sued. What we're doing is recklessly working a commission to lay a lawsuit out for this commission to be into and can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I say we don't do it because we want to be reckless with this and have this county into a lawsuit, just like Worcester County. It didn't take them long to get that lawsuit. Wait till 2020 when we won't get a lawsuit, let the redistricting do it right.
Mr. Lyons, I think you were standing.
I was, I had to sit back down.
Well, I'm trying to keep up best I can. It's a little more difficult than you would imagine to keep order.
Thank you. I was in the committee that's been dealing with this for quite some time, actually. And during the committee discussion, this last committee meeting we had, when we actually voted to bring Florida, there was a lot of discussion, and I remember specifically one question that bothered me, it still bothers me now. But not since Josh answered the question again, like he answered in committee. And that was, are we doing anything illegal? And the minutes will reflect. In that committee meeting, I asked that question before I put the motion to the floor, and I was the one who made the motion. Mr. McQueen seconded the motion. But it was clearly after I asked Josh Harden, Mr. Harden, if we were doing anything illegal, which a lot of people have been on Facebook since the committee meeting, kind of somewhat suggesting, I'll say it that way, that it is illegal or it could be illegal. And then the second thing I asked, or said, I guess, after I found out that it wasn't illegal, was we have done many things on this commission, at least since I've been here. Mr. Mee has been here for years longer than me. Mr. Peters, that I respect tremendously, Mr. Tester. But since I have been here, we have probably made many decisions, especially during the EMS battle and the Carter County Tomorrow battle, where we could have been sued the very next day by the decisions we were making. And so on this one, I said, the AG hasn't responded. It's not illegal. And in fact, anything that we can do in the next meeting, practically, we could be sued the very next day for not fixing Mr. McGee. I think he may still be here. He's still here for not fixing his problem over there with his parking spaces. We could be sued for that. So we could have been sued with Carter County Tomorrow. We could have been sued with the health department. We have a fiduciary responsibility as elected officials to do the right thing and do it with good research and do it on opinions. The opinion has not been rendered by the AG's office. I respect Mr. Harden tremendously. I've told him that. I've worked with him on several issues. That's why I asked him on this issue before I made the motion. Mr. Harden, is this illegal? If it is, I'm not going to do it. The answer was no, it's not illegal. I put the motion to the floor. The motion passed 7-1. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
In my history, all I've heard is nothing but, yes, we want downsize. And every one of us has run on that deal that moves with downsides.
Let's give the lady her turn at the floor. Mr. Meehan, thank you for the interruption.
Tonight is the time to earn your money and do what you was put here to do. It's time to vote. Let's see who's going to vote their conscience, who's going to vote for themselves, and who's going to vote to do the right thing that the citizens want.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Peters.
I represent in the first district, according to this list, 7,408 people. In the first district, like Mr. Tester said, there's, I think, 7 different communities in the first district. There's Hunter, Winter, Carter, Unaka, Midway, Beulah, Dean, and Blue Springs. They're all different. We've got 3 representatives to represent those 7,000 people in 7 different districts. 2 of these gentlemen are from Hunter, which Hunter has the most consolidated votes. They usually determine who the commission is. I'm from Utica. Midway, Beulah Dean has a voting percent, but they never get anybody elected to the commission. And this is going to even make it worse. All your representation, and I'm not taking away from that they wouldn't represent the whole district. I'm just saying, it's going to be consolidated then in the Hunter district. It's 17 or 18 miles from the beginning of our district to the top of the mountain. We represent 18 miles, 7,000 people. And in my, I think it's 16 years, can't even remember, 16 years of being on this commission, not one person, and this is the truth, in 16 years has ever come to me and said, I think we ought to downsize the commission. I don't know where you people are getting the facts. If you're getting it off the internet, if you go with that, Hillary Clinton would have been president. So we can't go with the internet.
We may have done that wrong.
I have never had one person come to me and say we need to downsize the commission. I think the more people you have, the better you go represent the people out in the day. And that's all I've got to say.
Anyone else? Mr. McQueen.
First of all, I'd just like to say in defining times, I find that leaders shape that way. So with that, I'd like to thank Mr. Jenkins for his leadership on this. I think he's handled this with civility and with understanding and certainly with his constituents in mind and integrity that I think no one could question. I would just say that through my research, as many have done, I found it to not be illegal. Through my workings with the people in my district, people that live in Black Bottom community, people that own restaurants in town like the Blue Circle, and people who are district managers at Burger King, and people that I've talked to that live here, just walking around and actually going out to meet with them, this has been something that was echoed, and that they would like to see not only a smaller commission, but one that's more efficient, one that's more respectful, one that is looking out for the interests of the people, perhaps better than we have now or that's been done in previous generations, which is that what else is to be expected but to want better. So I don't blame them for that at all. And I think as elected officials, we are a service to the people, and we should humble ourselves and realize that we could all do better. So it is my opinion that I think we should redistrict, but I mean, we should vote for this, but we should also redistrict, as Mr. Harden said. I think you mentioned that Washington County went from a 9-point-something, we'll save the math, I've done enough of that lately, but to a 2-point-something. And if we're at 8-point-something, it certainly seems like we could do better. Hearing my constituents say that certain members of the community are not necessarily represented as well, at least to some extent, or don't get to see people on this, tells me that we could also redistrict to make that a little more fair and equal as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McQueen. Mr. Meehan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the resolution is written, it makes a statement that this action will be in the best interest of the citizens of Carter County, but I'm not sure it's been researched or demonstrated enough how that would be. We have a lot of anecdotal stories here. Well, everybody in my district tells me we want to whack it down. But I have heard other stories that I'm afraid I won't have enough representation if there's only 2 over a widespread area. District 2 is similar to the 1st district in that Roan Mountain is the hub of heavy voting, and there's a lower section of District 2 where you have all the way out to the Unicoi line. You got Rittertown Road, Fairview, and all these other sections that they're not going to be represented, in my opinion, adequately. First, I want to commend the committee and Mr. Jenkins. You do a good job. You've done a lot of work on this, and I appreciate that. As this is laid out, as I'm looking at it, you've got the 16-member commission and the 24. The difference financially, if I'm reading this right, is $400 a year. Is that right? Come on. Okay. Is that worth, opening ourselves up to a lawsuit? It's gonna cost more than that to have him defend us in a lawsuit if someone just tweaks at it and say, well, I don't feel in my section of the district I'm getting adequate representation. Some of the people that I feel are behind in rushing to do this are among those who always say, well, we need to listen to our county attorney's advice. And now in this case, well, it's not illegal, but even though he advised against it at this point, I think we should go ahead with it. And then there's assumptions being made that everybody in here heard from their district that we all promised and ran on a platform that we were going to reduce this commission to save the taxpayers' dollars. So what is the annual difference? I'm talking about $4,800. Some of the commissioners in this room, the last meeting when we were having the budget, were trying to lay a guilt trip on other members saying, we're putting a burden on the taxpayers' back. And some of those same people just quickly passed something that committed us possibly to $50,000 in this resolution that we just passed. So I think we're a little out of balance. I like the attorney's idea. We can wait until the 2020, and if we have demonstrated adequately and adequately heard, which we probably next year in our voting, if those who run for county commission will know how the citizens really feel about downsizing, we could make a more intelligent and rational decision in 2020 if we want to go ahead and downsize this commission.
Mr. Jenkins.
Said, small statement, and I've got a couple of questions for the county attorney. I want to say it's never been about the money, Mr. Meehan. It's about the people. And it's our obligation to make our way to the rural areas. Making my way up towards Butler. I've been up that way. I work it. I get phone calls. And as far as Washington County goes, we could be waiting until the cows come home for an answer back there. But my two questions for the county attorney is, one, this lawsuit, do you really see it costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars? There's no penalty or reward for this. We're not going to pay a citizen $200,000 because they sued us. We're just going to drop it. That's what would happen. We'll just go back. Am I right, county attorney?
Well, no, it's not that simple. I mean, I agree. It's not probably going to cost $100,000, but if someone sues, certainly we would have to defend ourselves in that suit. We can't just run and stick our head in the sand. But certainly they could prevail, and we could be ordered to do something different to comply, and most likely they would probably win their attorney fees as well as what you pay me. Is that going to be $100,000? No. But yes, I mean, there could be some exposure there.
And as far as, I've heard this said several times, let the people vote for it, let the people vote for it. And I'm all for that, I'm all for that. The county attorney, can you please enlighten us on a referendum being done with this?
Yeah, there is no referendum possible, in my opinion, in this situation. Referendums are something that are allowed in certain situations by statute or given the authority, like local option taxes, liquor by the drink. Referendums are placed on the ballot by the state legislature, like wine and grocery stores, those things. We are just not at liberty to place questions on the ballot. And the only legal way to alter the makeup of the commission or the districts is by this body. So, even if you did get some informal something, which I don't even think you could do, even if you stood outside the polling places and did it, that would be, it wouldn't matter. I mean, that might influence your decision, but that can't legally change anything. It is only the vote of this commission through the reinforcement process. That's the only thing that changes it. Or a judge ordering us to do something if we're challenged on it.
And I remember that blew my mind when I first seen that, but the commission has the sole power to either downsize itself or make itself bigger. It's not people, but people can speak with us. And I just, thank you for clearing that up for me. And thank you for, always being there, phone calls, and helping out through this process.
Commissioner Von Cannon.
Before this figure, $400 gets imprinted in their minds, let's look at this. 8 people will not be back. 8 people times $100 per meeting, and we normally meet 10 times a year, is not $400, it's $8,000. In the case of committees, 8 people will not be back, let's say. $50 a meeting, times 10 meetings, or maybe more. $4,000. That's $12,000 rather than $400. Now, that's a bottom number, because budget committee people meet more often.
We don't get paid
So
for all
does
those. We don't get paid for all those.
So, 12,000 is the minimum, not 400.
Doc.
Our meetings are in recess, they're not adjourned.
Ms. Miller, please, thanks. Mr. Miller. Or Lewis.
Mr. Mayor, how many times have you said, with this commission here, 24 of us, you've accomplished more than you had all the others? You're accomplishing what you set out to do. Why do you want to get rid of Ted? I was the 3rd man in my district. Do you want to lose your, I'm not going to run again. One time is enough. But you're that 3rd man in each district, and you love this mission, John, you want to lose your job? Huh? You're the top getter in your district.
And I will first say.
He's the next. I will. But do you, Constantly said, hey, you've accomplished more with 24 people here than you have always before. Why do you want to get rid of 80 old people when you've already said many a time that you accomplished? And I'm saying, hey, if you're the 3rd man and you love this job, you better keep the 24, not down 9.
We better work hard.
Me, I'm going to get there.
Doc, I'm not going to answer that question for fear that I'll be reprimanded. Well, I'll save my comments for here in a minute, okay? Mr. Tester.
I just like to say, when I was talking about that money, if you would, I can't remember now, but the attorney fees when Chris Laffey sued this county commission, the attorney fees was somewhere in the thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands. I think it's 100 and something, I don't remember. But just because they tell you it's illegal doesn't mean you won't get sued. They put you in jail if you do something illegal. If you do something that you hurt someone in the financial, that's where they get the lawsuit. People get sued every day in court. Civil courts are bigger than the criminal courts anymore, and they didn't do anything illegal. They did something that was not appropriate. Stuff like that. So just don't think because nobody believes that this is illegal, it's going to clear us. If we harm people from having a say-so, we will do it the way it's set up. And 50,000 people in this county will get sued.
Is there any commissioner that hasn't spoken? Yes, Mr. Holdren.
Just following up on LC's comments there, we could actually get sued for not downsizing the commission. It's a catch-22. I mean, like you said, anybody can sue anybody these days, so.
Well, certainly our reinforcement plan was approved in 2011, and we are within the acceptable range. It's 10, and ours is 8.7. If we can improve it, great, but I don't think we're making an attempt to improve it. No one has sued us. Certainly someone could sue us and say our current plan is not appropriate, but I don't I don't think that has any merit. Let me make one more distinction before I shut up. There's maybe a fine line that people are walking here using the word illegal or without authority. So let me try to clear it up. Just like Mr. Tester referred to, I mean, usually the term illegal is used when you're committing some crime. What I'm saying here is essentially the same thing. No, nobody's guilty of a crime, but what I'm saying is, in my opinion, based on the statute and what I've researched, we are without authority. The commission is without authority to do what you're proposing to do. So we're just playing a semantics game here. If you're without authority to do something, it's illegal to do it. I'm not saying you are guilty of any crime. I'm just saying I don't think you have the authority to do this. So, I mean, don't hinge, yes, I did say there is no black and white statute that says you cannot do this. But listen to the whole opinion. If, in my opinion, and like I said, I could not care less how many of you there are, whatever you want to do. It's my job to tell you what I think the law is. And, I would defend whatever happened, as I said, but that's going to be pretty hard to do as clearly as I've spelled out here that I don't think we can do this.
Mr. Trivett.
Mr. Martin, I appreciate your opinion. I'm going to ask you a point-blank question. And I want a simple yes or no. If we do this, is this legal? I just want a yes or no.
I can't answer that, sir. I'm not a judge. I can give you my opinion that I think you're without authority to do it.
Everybody has opinions of different things.
Yeah, some are more educated than others.
I just want to know, is this illegal? Is it illegal, Mr. Hart?
I think the commission is without authority to do it. So
Can you show me where it's illegal?
Well, I can't do that, sir, as I explained.
In other words, it's not illegal.
Nope.
Okay, is there any other commissioner that has not spoke on this matter that would like to do so? And I think we need to limit to that and bring this thing to a close. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be real brief. We'll try to restate it. I would like to thank Commissioner Jenkins because he has put an extended amount of work on fall and respect for representing his district. There are several valid points that have come out that I've never had thought of during this process. One thing is, they said that we may not have the authority, but this county established a 24. The state didn't come in and say, you're to have 24. So if you are the originator, and we're not changing the lines, we're not changing the movement of populace to get the percentages down to what your representation is, it appears to me that the best thing in the world would be 16. That just means that you all have to work harder to represent your people. Absolutely. To make a statement, well, and I'm only using an example because I know them well. People in Buell Daniel or people in Elk Mills. Well, Commissioner, get off your duff and go represent them. Don't come in here and complain if they're not being represented because you're the one making them do it. Right. The next thing, the suits. I want to tell you about lawsuits. I just returned as a civil servant in this county for years. And I'd like to have, and I believe the sheriff may verify this, every time we done something, look and said, I'm going to sue you. I used to try out yellow pages, telephone books with all the lawyers, put a quarter on it, tell them, please find you a good one. They still go with me. Okay? Everybody's going to sue, that's all they know. But I think that we were defending our rights because we're the establishment. We started the 24. I think we can reduce it if it's the majority rules.
Mr. Campbell.
2020, is that the year the census come back out again?
They will do the census in 2020. It would be 2021 before you would have the data and form the committee to work with the comptroller. And at that time, you could make as many districts as you want. You can change everything.
That's what I'm getting.
Right.
We can sit here and talk and argue all night. But until we get the population back in each district again, like you said, it's probably 7,000. They could be more than twice that. We don't really know. And I respect your opinion and what you're saying. And we're paying you to give us advice. And we should take that advice and your wisdom and go with it.
Is there anyone else that has not spoken on this issue? Mr. Holden?
I do have one last comment. If we do take this to a vote, we need to make a stipulation that if the AG or the Attorney General does come back and say that it's illegal, we need to drop it immediately. I think we need to put that as an amendment to the motion before we vote on it. Or if the county attorney comes back and finds something that definitively says that this is an illegal action.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Any other comments? Mr. Ward?
2020 is just around the corner. You know, we've been here 3 years, it's went by pretty fast. You know, this commission is the commission of compliance. That's what everybody's talking about since we came aboard. We've got a lot done in the last 3 years. And it is all about the people. I agree with you, Mr. Jenkins. But it's their choice also, not just theirs. Whether you say you represent your people in your district or not, you might not be representing all of them. Because some of them are silent. Some people don't voice their opinion about it. Another thing, you know, with the Washington County situation, you know, we don't know the outcome of that. Lawsuits are very expensive. We've made a lot of bad decisions in this commission. You know, we sued Carter County tomorrow. We paid our lawyer quite a bit of money. Carter County tomorrow paid $50,000 to be represented. You know, that would have been good money used for our community. We wasted good money. You know, we hired this man to make it, we hired him as our lawyer, take advice. And so far, I feel like we've taken a lot of good advice from him. But now, we choose to ignore the person that we, as a body, elected. You know, we elected him to give us the right answers. And he has spoken. I don't understand. I'm for downsizing the commission. I think 16 people would be great in this time. But is it time? The lawyer says no. Some of our constituents says yes. Quite a few of them say no. They're out supposed. So why are we so apt to do this tonight? Why can't look at all the picture? You know, this don't have to be done tonight. You know, like I said, I'm for downsizing, but I'm not for wasting money. And this lawsuit will cost money. And I'm sure there's probably somebody out there right now waiting to read the article in tomorrow's paper so they can do it. So do we put the county at risk again, like we did with Carter County tomorrow, like we did with the rescue squad, like we've done with a lot of things? I mean, you say you represent the people, you represent their money also. So with that being said, do what you want to do.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, one more thing here, excuse me.
Okay, make it brief, Mr. Lewis.
This is that, I have got the AG of the young opinion right here.
You have an AG.
It said the AG right here.
And the county attorney has also provided us with AG opinions, Mr. Lewis. Same thing.
It's not to do it until 2020.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that's got a different take on this? Mr. Grindstaff?
Mine is very brief. I believe, you know, not saying too much if everything were been said. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Jenkins, for all your work. I'm part of your committee. You have to do what's in your part and what your citizens ask you to do. And I want to say thank you for bringing that up. So, that's it.
Anyone else, very quickly? Madam Clerk, if you would, proceed with the vote. If you're in favor of this resolution, respond with aye. Those opposed, nay. Ten ayes, 14 noes. The motion failed. Mr. Lyons, sir, if you would please come up and take the chair. I would like to address the commission. I did not engage in any of this debate for a reason. wanted to see how the commission handled this very important matter. So, Mr. Lyons, if you would allow me a few minutes to provide an alternative to this fix. An alternative.
Do you have your timer up here, Mr. Mayor?
It may take me a while, Mr. Lyons. There's a timer laying up there. But this is such an important issue, Mr. Lyons, if you could give me about 10 minutes. This is extremely important. It's the most important issue that's ever come before this commission. This is the closest that we've ever come to doing what the people of this county want.
And I think we should break the rules and give you 10 minutes when everybody else just gets 5.
Well, Mr.
I will go ahead and say 5 minutes.
Okay, on your tables, you have some information that I've prepared, and at no point in time in any of these subcommittee meetings have you ever really looked at the problem. The statute at hand here is 5-1-111C. And if you'll look at that, it's highlighted, and county attorneys touched on this many times tonight, and with no time constraints. The county legislative body may reapportion at any time if the county legislative body does deem such action necessary to maintain substantially equal representation based on population. Now, this commission, I bragged on you quite a bit, and I'm going to brag on you tonight, and I'm going to give you an opportunity you shouldn't pass up. Because if you'll look at the sheet here, it's got the glare on it. It says at the top, 2010 population by district with 3.2 minus 4.8 equals 8 standard deviations. Washington County Commission, when they came on, they made good on their word, and they made promises to the people in that county that they would downsize, and they took immediate action. They formed a committee to do so. They were about 9 standard deviations, which was acceptable by the state of Tennessee. In 2011, the previous commission did likewise, but they operated in haste. They were actually proud of what they did in 2011 because they were the first county. Carter County was the first in the state of Tennessee to submit a redistricting reapportionment plan, which was approved. You know how long it took that commission to do that? We passed a resolution in May, the commission did, of 2011, creating a reapportionment redistricting committee. Here's the resolution that passed that, allowed that creation of that committee. You don't have to have the resolution. You can create that committee here tonight. That was in May. In July, after sending representatives, Tom Yogi Bowers, after sending Mr. Largent from the assessor's office and Ms. Tracy Harris to Knoxville to be trained. After they did that, they came back, and in July, 60 days, folks, they had a new redistricting reapportionment plan that brought us out of the 10 deviation, above 10 deviations, to 8. Now, you're talking about equal representation. If you'll look at the other sheet that we've got there, or that one, this one, I want to ask you point blank, look at that data. Basically, when you look at District 3, which I'm in, that's my district. District 8, look at District 8, which is the town. District 8, there are 618 more citizens in District 3 than there are in District 8, and that's not the only. So, folks, this previous commission did not do their work, and they did not, as Washington County is attempting to do now, to reduce this standard deviation to an acceptable number. And in my opinion, there's only 3 districts that would even come close to meeting that, and that's District 2, with -4 below the 7178. There are -54 in District 4 and 20. So we got a lot of people, citizens in this county, that are not being properly represented by this plan. It's a flawed plan, folks. You heard it from the county attorney tonight. There is an opportunity for you to redistrict now. All you have to do is create that committee tonight. 8 commissioners. The administrator of elections is part of that. In 60 days from today, working with the Office of Local Government, Representative Matthew Hill, who is the GIS technician on that committee. I spoke with Mr. Hill this week at length. That staff is there to help Carter County achieve this goal. That staff is willing to jump through the hoops, do everything possible. So with that, you don't have to worry about a lawsuit. That argument is not good, folks. If you use that argument, you can say, well, I'm not going to get my car and go to work tomorrow morning because there's a good possibility that I'm going to have an accident. So therefore, I'm not going to show up at work. I'm just going to stay at home. It's the same thing as saying there's a meteorite in the heavens and there's a good possibility if I step out that door, it's going to hit me. You were elected to represent what's in the best wishes of the people of this county. I've been here for 7 years now, and I've talked to people in every district.
You have 1 minute, Mr. Mayor.
Every district. And I have not found but 3 people that have called me and talked to me that said that they did not want a smaller, more efficient form of government. So, folks, if you want to fix this, you don't have to wait until 2020. You can do it tonight. You can form the committee. You can start the work. I'll do everything I can to expedite this process through the Office of Local Government so that it's done legal, and we can do this right. Thank you, Mr. Alliance.
Thank you, sir.
Chair, nice meeting. You're the chair.
I am the chair during this presentation, Mr. Tester.
Are you speaking to what he said?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead then, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
Our attorney says, folks, this is our attorney. This is not another side's attorney. This is our attorney that we pay to keep us out of court. And he says you have no grounds. Okay, that's what civil law is about. It's not about breaking the law. It's not about illegal. Do I have the grounds to do this? Do I have a reason to do this right now? Our attorney that we pay says we have to. You can't take defeat. You keep coming up and you keep coming up. And that's what irritates me with you until you get your way. The commission has spoken. You want to select.
Mr. Tester, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Lyons, if the commission has a right to ask a question, I should be able to ask a question to county attorney as well. Mr. Attorney, based on this section, item C, is there anything that would prohibit us from doing our job to maintain equal representation or to make it as equally as possible based on this point?
Right, what you're presenting is a totally different scenario whereby there would be a reapportionment committee and you would potentially change the composition of districts to make that deviation of representation lower, and that is what the statute is for. So, I mean, if that is the proposal and you're going to do that, wonderful. I don't have a problem with that. That's just what Washington County did, even though they got sued, and we might get sued too. That's beside the point. I think that I think they did it the correct way, and if you do it the correct way, fine. I've got no issue with that. The first proposal was just simply a random slashing of commissioner out of each district. That's got nothing to do with changing that deviation. This does. If you do that and you go through the process that they went through, and I don't know how quick, it took them almost a year. Y'all might be able to do it quicker. Fine. I'm all for it, and I can defend that, no problem.
I'm going to go ahead with Mr. Peters. Go ahead, sir.
Why would we do this in the middle of the census when we don't have the census till 2020. It could change.
Correct. You have to use the 2010 data, no matter where we're at today. So,
Right.
yes, you're
And
using
then
that same
in a
data.
couple of years, it could change, and we could be doing it all again. And you said that this was rushed through in 2011 in 60 days. Well, that's exactly what you're wanting to do, rush it through.
Sir, I'm not proposing that. What I'm proposing is to form the committee and not move just one line between the 1st and the 4th district to get compliance within the 10 standard deviations. I'm proposing that you form a committee that will move many lines to adjust these so that they're all within 1 standard deviation, which is what we should have done in 2011. So this is your opportunity. You can either act upon it or you cannot.
Mr. Hill.
This is the last
question.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we take this information home tonight, and we study it over the next month, and we put it on the agenda for next month for your proper consideration. I appreciate your work here, but I think this should have probably been in the packet if it would have been considered.
So you're making that in form of a motion, Mr. Hill?
Yes, that was a motion.
Do I hear a second? Second, Mr. Ward. We have a motion and a second, now discussion, Ms. Brown.
I make a motion that we form a committee.
We have a motion, wait a minute, we have a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor, we have a second.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons.
Any discussion on that particular motion? I'll get back to you, Ms. Brown.
On that
Go
particular
ahead.
motion.
Go ahead, Mr. McQueen.
I'm opposed to that motion for this reason. We've talked tonight, and many people who very civilly have said that they agree or want a 16 commission body. And while I don't necessarily agree with all the points of what this committee represents, I do think having a committee in place, maybe that's one that would last the whole year, would get us started, where we're not under any obligation to turn things immediately, but to put the thing in place, I think that would help us, and I think we should take action on that as opposed to this.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Hill, we have a second by Commissioner Danny Ward. Any other discussion on that particular motion? Ms. Collins?